Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you all for joining in for our Srila Prabhupada book study. We'll start with prayers. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunvedam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Gutapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namo Vishnupadhaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gaurodishri Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktavyam Namami Bhaktashaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosude Taptakanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishvanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Dale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tattvaktaya Namo Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langaide Girindya Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna. So thank you all for joining in. We are on chapter number 2 of this book, Path of Perfection. Yesterday we were reading about Dhruva Maharaj, right? Akama Sarva Kamova Moksha Kamudhardi Tivrena Bhakti Yogena Yajeta Purusham Param, right? Whatever be our state, whether we are full of desires, whether we have no desires, we simply need to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. More importantly, under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. If we do that, then all of our material desires will automatically be vanquished or extinguished. And in that place, pure love of God would be revealed in our heart. We saw the detailed narration of the pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, how he wanted a kingdom much bigger than his forefathers, how he met Narada Muni, how he followed Narada Muni's instructions, how he chanted Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, and then how the Lord gave darshan. The Lord placed his conch on the head of Dhruva Maharaj, and in this way Dhruva Maharaj was regretting, I was actually looking for broken pieces of glass, but now I've got this diamond. So whether we have lots of desires, whether we have no desires, whether dharma, artha, kama, moksha, whatever be our state, we don't have to give up anything. Like Prabhupada always says, just add Krishna to your life, right? We simply have to add Krishna, worship Krishna, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna, and then all of the other anarthas or the so-called desires will be purified simply by the association of the holy name that we chant under the guidance of a pure devotee of the Lord, who is the bona fide spiritual master. That's what is the essence of Dhruva Maharaj's pastime, right? So he had a lot of desires, which is also our condition. Secondly, what did he do? He took the shelter of a spiritual master, Narada Muni. Thirdly, he followed the instructions very nicely, chanted the prayers very nicely, right? And then what happened? The Lord personally gave darshan to him. And simply by worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this is very, very important lesson for all of us. Simply worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will be able to get purified of all of our anarthas, all of our material desires for sense gratification, other things. All right. So let's continue reading. Devotees who want to read, may raise your hand. So yeah, yesterday we finished till here. Yeah. So one who is not related to Krishna was mechanically not try to follow the process, right? As long as we have Shraddha, in the what is that verse? Yata Devi Tata Grau. Tasya hi Katyartham. Okay, one second. Let me pull out that verse. Yeah, Srimad Bhagavatam 7.15.28. Which says, oh no, it's not verse. Yasya deve parabhaktir yata deve tata grau. Okay, it's not in Bhagavatam. It is in the purport of this verse. What is Srila Prabhupada quotes it in the purport of this verse. Yasya deve parabhaktir yata deve tata grau tasyaite katitahi artaha prakashante mahatmanaha. This is there in Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6.23. Now, typically it says that one should have implicit faith in both the Guru as well as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When one has such faith, then automatically the purports of spiritual subject matters will be revealed in the heart. Very easy verse to remember that you already know is Tadviti Pranipatena Pariprashnena Sevaya Upadekshanti Te Jnanam Jnaninas Tattvadarshinaha. The spiritual master will reveal the transcendental knowledge in the heart of the disciple who renders service, inquires submissively, and has implicit faith in the Guru as well as in Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, like that. All right. So let's move forward. One may compare the yoga system to a ladder. Who will read? Okay, why am I not able to see anybody? One second. Yeah. Okay, Priyanka Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
One may compare the yoga system to a step ladder. One yogi may be situated on the 5th step, another yogi may be on the 50th step, and yet another on the 500th step. The purpose, of course, is to reach the top. Although the entire ladder may be called the yoga system, that's just blocking Mataji, yeah, called the yoga system, one who's on the 5th step is not equal to one who is higher up. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna delineates a number of yoga systems: Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. All of these systems are connected with God. Krishna, just as the entire ladder, is connected to the topmost floor. This is not to say that everyone practicing the yoga system is situated on the topmost floor. Only he who is in the full Krishna consciousness is so situated. Others are situated on different steps of the yogic ladder. Mataji, please help me.
Yeah. Udaret Atman Atmanam Atmanam Avasadayet Atmaiva Hyatmano Bandhur Atmaiva Ripura Atmanaha.
One must deliver himself with the help of his mind and not degrade himself. The mind is a friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. The word Atma denotes body, mind, soul, depending on different circumstances. In yoga system, the mind and the conditioned soul are especially important. Since the mind is the central point of yoga practice, Atma refers here to the mind. The purpose of the yoga system is to, the purpose of the yoga system is to control the mind and to draw it away from the attachment to sense object. It is stressed herein that the mind must be so trained that it can deliver the conditioned soul from the mire of nescience.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mata.
So this is a very important verse. Prabhupada is quoted here. Bhagavad Gita 6.5. Uddharet Atmanatmanam. Uddhara. Uddhara means to lift somebody, to take somebody up, deliver somebody. Uddharet Atmanatmanam Natmanam Avasadayet. Right? So whoever helps himself, right? And there's another verse also in Bhagavad Gita which says the mind is the best friend of a person who's controlled the mind. And for a person who's not controlled the mind is the worst enemy. Right? So in this the Atma, Prabhupada, like he explains, the word Atma denotes mind, body, and soul in different circumstances. But the most important thing here is Atma refers to the mind. The one who is attached to sense objects, his mind can never be under control. right? He can never be delivered. But a person who has controlled his mind, who's controlled his attachment to sense objects by way of training, then he'll be able to control his mind, and in that way, his mind becomes his best friend, right? So we all want to make our mind our best friend. Why we want to make our mind our best friend? Because when the mind is suitably in place, or when the mind is suitably controlled, then the senses can be engaged accordingly. If the mind is not controlled, then the mind directs the senses in all the directions, right? So the example is given very beautifully by Prabhupada, where he talks about the chariot, right? Or the, horse-driven chariot, right? There are 5 horses, and then there is this passenger who's seated, and there's also this driver, and he's got the reins in his hand, right? So this passenger is the jiva. The person who is driving the chariot is the intelligence, and the reins with which he whips the horses so that the horses go in the right direction, that is the mind, right? And then the horses are the 5 senses, right? So why the training of the mind is very important, because how the mind is directed with the intelligence, who is the driver, right? How the intelligence is purified by studying of the scriptures, by studying of Srila Prabhupada's books. In this way, the intelligence it directs the mind how to engage the senses, and then in this way, the intelligence directs the mind directs the senses, and the horses go in the right direction, right? So it is very important to do vyavasayatmika buddhi ekaha kurunandana. In order to have the mind focus on one object, we need to purify our intelligence. We need to purify our intelligence by study of the scriptures. And then the intelligence is purified, the mind is directed properly, the mind directs the senses properly, and then our actions are dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. That means we dovetail our actions for the purpose of Krishna consciousness, or for the purpose of satisfying Lord Sri Krishna. Then all our activities will become perfect, right? So the first chapter of this book, Prabhupada spoke about yoga in action, right? Where we continuously, Prabhupada was reiterating the point that devotion is not just in the mind. Devotion, we understand, we control the mind, and then devotion is by, after controlling the mind, to engage the senses in the service of the Lord. That is devotional service. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, now Prabhupada is talking about Ashtanga Yoga system. Okay, Vrishabhanu Kanya Mataji, go ahead. Vrishabhanu Kanya Mataji, you are there? Okay, Sindhu Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, pranams Mataji.
Hare Krishna, pranams.
In the Ashtanga Yoga system, these 8-fold yogas, dhyana, dharana, etc., are meant to control the mind. Shri Krishna explicitly states that a man must utilize his mind to elevate himself. Unless one can control the mind, there is no question of elevation. The body is like a chariot, and the mind is the driver. If you tell your driver, please take me to the Krishna temple, the driver will take you there. But if you tell him, please take me to that liquor house, you will go there. It's the driver's business to take you wherever you like. If you can control the driver, he will take you where you want to go, where you should go. But if not, he will ultimately take you wherever he likes. If you have no control over your driver is your enemy. But if he acts according to your orders, he is your friend. The yoga system is meant to control the mind in such a way that the mind will act as your friend. Sometimes the mind acts as a friend and sometimes as an enemy. Because we are part and parcel of the Supreme who has infinite independence, we have minute or finite independence. It is a mind that is controlling that independence, and therefore he may either take us to the Krishna temple or to some nightclub.
Go ahead, Mataji.
It is a purpose of this Krishna conscious movement to fix the mind on Krishna. When the mind is so fixed, he cannot do anything but act as our friend. He has no scope to act any other way. As soon as Krishna is seated in the mind, there is light, just as when the sun is in the sky, darkness is vanquished. Krishna is just like the sun, and when he is present, there is no scope for darkness. If we keep Krishna on our mind, the darkness of Maya will never be able to enter. Keeping the mind fixed on Krishna is the perfection of yoga. The mind is strongly fixed on the Supreme. It will not allow any nonsense to enter, and there will be no fall down. If the mind is strong, the driver is strong, and we may go wherever we may desire. The entire yoga system is meant to make the mind strong, to make it incapable of deviating from the Supreme.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Thank
So,
you.
we were just discussing Smartavya Satatam Vishnur Vismartavyo na Jatuchit. Right? Smartavya Satatam. Remembering is a function of the mind, right? With the mind, Prabhupada tells in Bhagavad Gita, 3 functions are there for the mind: thinking, feeling, and willing. Right? What am I thinking about? What am I contemplating about? And what are my feelings? And what is my desire? Thinking, feeling, and willing are the functions of the mind. Right? So what are we thinking? What are we feeling? And whom we want to serve? Everything depends on how strong our mind is. Like Prabhupada makes a very beautiful point here. Right? Depends on the driver where he will take us, whether to the liquor house or to the Krishna house. Right? But if we are capable of controlling the driver, then it is best. Otherwise, it becomes a very dangerous situation. Right? We can even think in a pure material example. When we get into a car or a rig, we ask him to go turn left, turn right. He does not listen to us. The auto driver just goes according to where he wants. Isn't that a very precarious situation? We get very scared, isn't it? We try to call whomever we know that, this person is trying to, take us here, there, everywhere. But we don't understand that our mind is playing the same role. The mind is actually directing us, to go here, go there, do this, do that. And we are like Katputlis in the hand of the mind. But an intelligent person who has studied the scriptures, who has a discriminatory ability to know what is right, what is wrong, is able to tell no to the mind. And that is the perfection. When we're able to say no to the mind, we are able to say yes to Krishna. Right? The stronger our mind, suitably directed by proper intelligence. To that extent, the mind is a good friend. That's why they say the mind, like the mobile also they say, the mobile is a good slave, but not a bad master. Similarly, the mind is also a good slave, right? We can utilize the mind to do a lot of wonderful things. Like we utilize the mobile to join Zoom sessions, to make important calls, to connect with the devotees, to study, to look at the Veda base. Like that, we can utilize the mobile, but there has to be a superior authority who's controlling the mobile. Similarly, there has to be a superior authority which will control the mind and direct the mind to perform actions according to its authority, not allow the mind to wander and do whatever it likes. If we allow the mind to wander, then we are digging our own grave, because it is like the driver taking us wherever he wants to. Right? Sometimes late in the night we don't get a rickshaw. We want to say we want to go to Thakur village. He says no, I want to go to Kandivali West. If you want, you come. Right? I'm not going to go to his house, isn't it? If he does not want to come, fine. I don't want such a driver, isn't it? I will look for something else. Similarly, if our mind is not willing, then we have to reject the mind. That's what His Grace Burijan Prabhu says in the Japa book. When we are trying to control the mind by several practices, but the mind is adamant and not sticking, then you just reject the mind. Okay, I will come back to you later after this 2 hours of chanting. I will come back to you. I will address it. For now, we'll put it to rest like that. Right? Finally, you reject the mind and then you go ahead with whatever you want to do. That is what it means by being the boss of our mind. In that way, the mind is a best friend. Okay, let's go ahead. Savay Mana Krishna Padaravindayo. So now we're going to talk about Ambarish Maharaj, how he utilized his mind, his senses, and everything in the service of the Supreme Lord, and how the Lord is also sold out to such a devotee who is always engaged in remembering him. That's a very wonderful thing. Vrishabhanu Kanya Mataji, go ahead. Savay Mana Krishna Padaravindayo.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Dandavat.
Sevai Manah Krishna Padara Vindya. One should fix mind on Krishna, just as Ambarish Maharaj did when he had fight with a great Ashtanga Yoga named Durvasa Muni. Since Ambarish Maharaj was a householder, he was pound shillings man. This means that he had taken into account pounds, shillings, and sixpence, or dollars and cents. Apart from being householder, Maharaj Ambarish was also great king and devotees. Durvasa Muni was a great yogi. Great yogi who happened to be very envious of Maharaj Ambarish. Durvasa Muni was thinking, I am great yogi and I can travel in space. This man is an ordinary king and he does not possess such yogic powers. Still, people pay him more honor. Why is this? I will teach him a good lesson. Durvasa Muni then proceeded to pick a quarrel with Maharaj Amrish. But because the king was always thinking of Krishna, he managed to defeat this great yogi. Durvasa Muni was consequently directed by Narayana to take shelter at the feet of Maharaj Amrish. Durvasa Muni was such a perfect yogi that within a year he could travel throughout the material universe and also penetrate the spiritual universe. Indeed, he went directly to the abode of God. Mataji, please scroll. Vaikuntha, and so the personality of Godhead himself. Yet Durvasa Muni was so weak that he had to return to earth and fall at the feet of Maharaj Amrish. Maharaj Amrish was an ordinary king, but his one great qualification was that he was always thinking of Krishna. Thus, his mind was always controlled, and he was situated at the highest perfectional level of yoga. We also can very easily control the mind by keeping it fixed on the lotus feet of Krishna within. Simply by thinking of Krishna, we become victorious conquerors, topmost yogis. Yoga
Hare Krishna.
Indri.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you.
Yeah. So this was the verse wherein we discussed Savi Manak Krishna Padaravindayo. Right? The example of how Maharaja Ambarish and Durvasa Muni. Right? Durvasa Muni was envious. Although he was a yogi, although he was completely renounced, he was envious of Maharaja Ambarish. And Maharaj Ambarish, although was a grihastha, pounds and shillings man, Prabhupada is saying, right? Prabhupada gives these examples, especially because these were examples quoted in the West, isn't it? Pound and shillings man means a person who works, earns money, runs his normal business, etc. He was a king, he was a Kshatriya, isn't it? So he was a pound and shillings man, he was a grihastha. Yet, in his consciousness, he was always remembering the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So with this, we also understand that the Varna and Ashrama doesn't matter. Doesn't matter whether you are Brahmachari or Vanaprastha or Grihastha or Sannyasi. Does not matter. But it matters what is our consciousness. What are we thinking about? That is what ultimately matters. Everything else does not matter. Because everything will be subject to change, right? But what is only constant, right? Neha Vikrama Nashosti Pratyavayona Vidyate Swalpam Apiyasya Dharmasya Trayate Mahato Bhayat. Right? Whatever little devotional service that we do is to our eternal credit. Everything else is going to change. Everything else is going to get destroyed at some point of time or the other. So this is what is a lesson that we learn from Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni's pastime. All right. So the next point is, Sridhar Prabhu, go ahead. Yoga Indriya Samyamaha. Yes.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat Pranam Mataji. Yoga Indriya Samyamaha. The yoga system is meant to control the sense. And since the mind is above the senses, if we can control the mind, our senses are automatically controlled. The tongue may want to hate something improper, but if the mind is strong, it can say, no, you cannot eat this. You can eat only Krishna Prasada. In this way, the tongue as well as all the other senses can be controlled by the mind. Indriyani Paranai Aur Indriyani Pranai Aur Indriya Be Paranam Manaha. The material body consists of the senses, and consequently the body activities are the sensual activities. However, the above the sense is the mind, and the above mind is the intelligence, and the above intelligence is the spirit of soul. If one is on the spiritual platform, his intelligence, mind, and senses are spiritualized. The purpose of Krishna consciousness process is to actualize the spiritualization of senses, mind, and intelligence. The spirit soul is the superior to all, but because of he is sleeping, he has given power to attorney to the fickle mind. However, when the soul is awakened, he is once again master, and the servile mind cannot act improperly. Once we are awakened in Krishna consciousness, the intelligence, mind, and sense cannot act nonsensely. They must act in accordance with the dictations of the split soul. This is the spiritualization and purification. Rishikesha Sevanam Bhaktir Uchyade. We must serve the master of the senses with the senses. The Supreme Lord is called Rishikesha, which means that he is the original controller of the sense. Just as the king is the original controller of all activities of the state, and the citizens are secondary controller. Bhakti means acting spiritually in accordance with the desire of Rishikesha. How can we?
Thank you, Prabhu. We will just discuss that.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Okay, so Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Ruchyate. Right? What is Bhakti? When we engage our senses in the service of the Lord. Prabhupada is very beautifully talking here about how the spirit soul is given the power of attorney to the mind. Right? When we give the power of attorney to a wrong person, right? My mother, she actually invested through a mutual fund, right? The mutual fund, buying and selling of shares. What happened? She gave the money to a wrong person. He swindled away, 1 or 2 lakh of rupees gone, isn't it? So when we trust the wrong person and we give the power of attorney for that person to act in any way he or she wants, that person is surely going to harm us, right? Or because we are not placing our trust in somebody who's coming in a bona fide parampara, right? If we place our trust in our spiritual master, in our Shiksha Guru, and we blindly follow what they say, then we are in safe hands. But if you want to trust anybody and everybody, like the mind is running here and there and everywhere, and we give the power of attorney to the mind. Okay, mind, you do whatever you want, right? I will do whatever you say. Then what does it mean? That means we are empowering something which has the potential to destroy us, which has the potential to completely destroy our devotional service. Right? This is the greatest risk because everything else is destructible. Everything else, what is destroyed can be brought back. Right? They say that when wealth is lost, something is lost. When health is lost, something more is lost. But when character is lost, everything is lost. Right? That character, which is the essential aspect of service, that is the inherent nature of a human being. If one loses that by just listening to this fickle mind, like Prabhupada is saying, power of attorney which given to the fickle mind, then what is it? Everything is lost. And then Prabhupada is saying, once one is awakened to Krishna consciousness, then the spirit soul becomes in charge. And the spirit soul knows what is the Jivera Swarupoe? Krishnera Nityadas. The spirit soul knows that I am the servant of the Lord and it is my duty to engage in the service of the Lord. So when one is situated in that constitutional position, then one controls the senses through the mind with the intelligence being situated properly, and knowing well that I am the servant of Krishna. Whatever actions I will do in a way that pleases Lord Sri Krishna. That will please Guru and Gauranga. That is what is bhakti. When we engage our senses in the service of the Lord, that is what is called bhakti. Yeah. All right. So let's continue. Okay. Bhakti means acting spiritually in accordance with the desires of Rishikesha. Who will read? Anjana Mataji, go ahead.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Bhakti means acting spiritually in according to with the desire of Rishikesha. How can we act since we must act with our senses? We must spiritualize our senses in order to act properly. As stated before, sitting in silent meditation means stopping undesirable desirable activity, but acting in Krishna consciousness is transcendental. The cessation of nonsensical action is not in itself perfection. We must act perfectly unless we train our senses to act in according to with Rishikesha, the master of the senses. Our senses will engage in the undesirable activities and we will fall down. Therefore, we must engage in the senses in action for Krishna, and in this way remain firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. In material existence, one is subjected to the influence of the mind, and in the senses, in fact, the pure soul is entangled in the material world because of the mind's ego, which it desires to lord it over material nature. Therefore, the mind should be trained so that it will not be attracted by the glitter of material nature, and in this way, the conditioned soul may be saved. One should not degrade oneself by attraction to sense objects. And the more one is attracted by sense sense objects, and the more one become entangled in material existence. The best way to disentangle oneself is to always engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. The word he in verse 5, chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita is used to emphasize the point, namely that one must do this. It is also said, mana eva manusya nam karanam bandha mokshe
Bandaya Vishayasango
bandaya go mukti irvasya yam mana. Mata scroll, please.
Okay, Mataji, thank you. Okay, so here, that we went off to the next paragraph. Okay, so in this Bandhur Atmatmanastasya Atmanam Ripuratmanaha, Krishna is saying, Bandhur Atmatmanastasya, right? When the mind is the best friend of a person who's controlled the mind, and the mind is the worst enemy of a person who's not controlled the mind, right? Who's not controlled the mind, he is entangled in material existence. And what is the best way to entangle, to disentangle from this material existence is to engage the mind in Krishna consciousness. Okay, here Prabhupada is mentioning about 6.5, right? The word he, what is that word? What is 6.5? Udharet atmanatmanam natmanam avashadiyat atmeva he atmano bandhur atmeva ripuratmanaha. He means hy, that's there, na? That in between that verse. That refers to indeed. This is what is the real problem. This is causing the real problem for the living entity. Namely, one must emphasize on this particular point. Namely, one must do this. What is that one must do? One must control the mind. And in the next paragraph, in the verse that Mataji just now read, mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho bandaya vishayasango mukti nirvishayam manaha. Now, wherein Prabhupada is saying, mind is the cause of bondage, mind is the cause of liberation, right? Mind is the cause of bondage when mind is not under control, and mind is the cause of liberation when the mind is actually under control, right? Under the control of the soul or the intelligence. Okay, so let's quickly read that part of it. We'll try to complete this chapter today. Who will read that? Navkishori Mataji, go ahead. For a man from there. Hare Krishna, Mataji, you need to unmute yourself.
Mataji.
Yes.
Nanda Pranam Mataji. Thank you. For a man, mind is the cause of a bondage, and mind is the cause of liberation. Mind absorbed in a sense object is the cause of bondage, and mind detached from the sense object is the cause of liberation. Vishnu Purana 6.7.28. The mind, which is always engaged in a Krishna consciousness, is the cause of supreme liberation. When the mind is thus engaged in a Krishna consciousness, there is no chance of being of its being engaged in Maya consciousness. In Krishna consciousness, we remain in sunlight.
And there is no chance?
In sunlight, and there is no chance of our being obscured by darkness, because we have freedom or liberty. We can stay within a dark room or go out into the broad daylight. That is our choice. Darkness can be irradiated by light, but light cannot be covered by darkness. If we are in a dark room and someone brings in a lamp, the darkness is vanquished, but we cannot take darkness into the sunlight. It is not possible possible. The darkness will simply fade away. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Haya Andhakara. Krishna is like sunlight and Maya is like a darkness. So how can darkness exist in sunlight? If we always keep ourselves in the sunlight, darkness will fail to act upon us. This is the whole philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Always in a Krishna consciousness, activities and Maya will be dissipated. Just as darkness is dissipated when there is light. This is stated in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.4. Bhakti
Thank you, Mataji.
yoge samyaka pranihite male apayasat purusham purnam mayam cha tada apashrayam. When the sage
Thank you, Mataji. We'll just discuss this and then we'll continue. Yeah. Okay. So, here, very beautifully, Prabhupada has quoted, right? Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hai Andhakara. In Ishopanishad, Prabhupada gives a very beautiful analogy. Prabhupada says, darkness is no astitva. There is no identity for darkness. Right? What is darkness? Definition of darkness is absence of light is darkness. There is no concept as darkness. When there is no light, the absence of light is what is called as darkness. Darkness has no existence of its own. Right? That's why here Prabhupada is also saying that we cannot, the darkness will simply fade away when there is light, because it has no separate existence. Darkness cannot exist in sunlight. Whenever there is sunlight, there will be no darkness, right? When the sunlight is not there, that situation is called darkness. That's all, right? So here, Prabhupada gives the analogy of how Krishna Surya Sama, Maya Haya Andhakar. So Krishna is like Surya and Maya is like darkness. And where there is Krishna, there cannot be any ignorance. Ignorance is referred to darkness here. So where there is sun, there cannot be any darkness. Similarly, where there is Krishna, there cannot be any ignorance. Right? We are all here in this material world because of our ignorance of Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because of our ignorance that I am the servant of Krishna. Because of our ignorance, we are envious of the Lord. Right? Because of ignorance. And how can we remove this ignorance? It's just like Surya or sun god removes darkness. Krishna consciousness or the practice of Navavida Bhakti removes the darkness called ignorance from our heart. Okay. Next, we'll read. Two people are there. Who else wanted to read? Yeah, Leela Nandini Mataji, go ahead. Bhakti Yogena Manasi.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandat Pranam.
Purnam Mayam Chadat Apashrayam. Yes, Mataji, please read. Hare Krishna, Dandat Pranam, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. When the sage Vyasadeva, under the instruction of his spiritual master Narada, fixed his mind perfectly, engaging by it, linking it in devotional service, that is Bhakti Yoga, without any tinge of materialism, Vyasadeva saw the absolute personality of Godhead along with his external energy, which was under full control. The word Manasi refers to the mind. When one is enlightened in Bhakti Yoga, the mind becomes completely freed from all contamination. Samak Pranihide Male. When Vyasa saw the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he saw Maya in the background. Mayam Chattad Apasrayam. Whenever there is light, there is also the possibility of darkness being present. That is, darkness is the other side of light, or darkness is under the shelter of light. Just as if I hold my hand up to the light, the top part of my hand will be in light and the bottom part will be shaded. In other words, one side is light and the other is darkness. When Vyasadeva saw Krishna, the Supreme Lord, he also saw Maya, darkness under his shelter. And what is this Maya? This is explained in the next verse of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.7.5. Yaya samho ida jiva atmanantri gunatmagam paro abhi manude nartam tat kradam chabi padyate. Due to the external energy, the living entity, although transcendental to the three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product and thus undergoes the reactions of material miseries. Thus, the illusionary energy has temporarily covered the conditioned souls. And who are these conditioned souls? Although finite, the conditioned spirit souls are as full of light as Krishna. The problem is that the conditioned soul identifies himself with this material world. This is called illusion, false identification with matter. Although the individual spirit soul is transcendental, he engages in improper activities under the dictation of Maya. And this brings about his conditioning or false identification. This is very elaborately explained in the 7th chapter, 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Haribol.
Haribol, Hare Krishna. So here, Prabhupada gives example in one of his lectures about these mannequins. right? In the garment shops, you will find a mannequin standing outside, right? A very beautiful mannequin of a lady or a man, right? Wearing that wonderful dress, right? And then what do we see? Oh, this is so beautiful, and then we go and see, and then we find that it is actually it is a representation of a man or a woman. It's not real, isn't it? Sometimes the Prabhupada also gives the example of a snake and a rope. Sometimes you mistake the snake to be a rope and rope to be a snake. Now, all of this is illusion. And Prabhupada again another time gives the example of a mirage in a desert. Right? In a desert, it looks like there is water. And when we actually go there, there is actually no water. How can there be water in the desert? Right? Finding water in the desert is almost equivalent. One second. Okay. So, yeah. So, how can there be water in the desert? There cannot be water in the desert. Finding water in the desert is equivalent to finding happiness in this material world. Because they are all illusion. Illusion means that which is not, right? What it seems to be, but it is not actually that, right? Just like water is there, but water is actually not there. It only seems that the water is there. Similarly, what we find as happiness in this material world is an illusion, because there can be no happiness in this material world. That is what is Daivi Hayesha Gunamayi Mama Maya Duratyaya. The same this Bhagavatam verse which is given here, the living entity, although transcendental to three modes of material nature, thinks of himself as a material product. Right? Because we are superior to the material energy of the Lord. Because we are Tatastha Shakti. Tata means we are in between the material and the spiritual energy. So sometimes we sway towards the spiritual energy, sometimes we sway towards the material energy of the Lord. Right? Because we are Tata, like the banks of a river. Sometimes it is wet, sometimes it is dry. Right? But what we need to do is we have to train our mind in such a way that we always serve the spiritual energy of the Lord. And in this way, when we do, we will not be under the dictation of Maya. Mameva ye prapadyante, Maya metam tarantite. How we can get over the Maya or the desire for sense gratification? It is by engaging in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is what, as Prabhupada is saying, is described in the 7th chapter, 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. All right. So last paragraph, who will read? We'll end our praise session. Who wants to read the last paragraph? Okay, let me read. Okay, Sneha Mataji, go ahead.
In conclusion, our actual keep quiet. In conclusion, our actual position is that of spiritual sparks, full of light. Now we are temporarily covered by this illusory energy Maya, which is dictating to us. Acting under the influence of Maya, we are becoming more and more entangled in the material energy. The yoga system is meant to disentangle us, and the perfection of yoga is Krishna consciousness. Thus, Krishna consciousness is the most effective means by which we can disentangle ourselves from the influence of the material energy.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji. So with this, we come to the end of chapter 2. Right? Prabhupada in his very famous lecture, he says that originally we are all Krishna conscious living entities, but due to our association with Maya, we're getting more and more entangled into the complexities of the material nature. Right? Prabhupada says, how do we disentangle ourselves from the influence of the material energy? By practicing Krishna consciousness. Right? But it's also, the Acharya has given an example of how a person only who is untied can actually remove another person or help another person to get out of this entanglement. We're all bound by the three modes of material nature. Sometimes Sattva-guna, sometimes Rajoguna, sometimes Tamoguna. And who can disentangle us? Somebody who's not bound. Right? It is like being bound by a golden chain or a silver chain or a copper chain. Ultimately, we are bound. Whether even we are bound with a golden chain, we're ultimately bound to this material world. So sometimes it seems that everything is going on well in our life, everything is happy state of affairs, but still we are bound by that gold chain. We are happy being bound by gold chain. But as long as we are in this material world, suffering is bound to happen. Right? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukkha, Doshanu, Darshanam. Right? If there is birth, there has to be death. There has to be disease. There has to be old age. There has to be, and this world is designated as Dukkhalayam. If you are thinking we are happy in this material world, that means we are an illusion. Because this world is not meant for us to be happy. This world is meant for us to purify ourselves and reform ourselves and go back home, back to Godhead. So if we think we are happily situated in this material world, then we are in illusion. It is just about time when our eyes will be opened by Maya Devi. Right? So it's better. They say better be blissful in ignorance, right? But that's not really how it works. Because whether we are or not, we are innocent or we are ignorant of the rules of the land or the rules of the Lord. The windmills of God grind slow but sure. Right? We will be subject to karmic reactions of whatever we do, irrespective of whether we know about it or not. So ignorance of the law is no excuse. Ignorance of the scriptures is no excuse. Right? We can happily try to enjoy in this material world, but some time or the other we will realize the futility, and the earlier the better. Right? The earlier we understand, the more amount of time we have to reform our lives and practice Krishna consciousness. So the earlier we have a spiritual master, a guide, a mentor in our life who will direct us how to stop enjoying this material world, but how we can utilize this human form of life to engage in something that will give us eternal bliss, eternal knowledge. That is the practice of Krishna consciousness, which is predominantly by the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol, Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So today at 8 o'clock in the evening, there is this wonderful opportunity to glorify Srila Guru Maharaj. I am the disciple of His Holiness Srila Jayapataka Swami Srila Guru Maharaj. So it will be on Zoom. I'll be sharing the link in the Medhavini group. So if you all are free in the evening at 8 o'clock, you may join in. Hare Krishna. Yes, Sindhu Mataji. Everyone can unmute themselves now. Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. Mataji, you were telling, right, like, we think that it is illusion, this material world, so that, no, we think that we are enjoying, but actually we are not. Then why does it exist, Mataji, first of all? Like, why have we come here? Then, if it is all temporary, if it is it's not
it's not real happiness, because this material world is described as a prison house, right? That's why Durga is the fortress of this prison house, right? Some of us are in A class prison cell, some of us are in B class, and some of us are in C class. When I say A class, it means the situations are very conducive. I know I have a lot of wealth, I have a lot of knowledge, I'm born in a Brahminical family. That is prison house A. That's a cell number A, right? Cell number B is I'm born in a very poor family, I don't have enough wealth, I'm suffering a lot, all that is prison B. And prison cell C is, I'm doing all kinds of sinful activities, right? How have we got each of these cells? Because of our previous karmas, because of our past desires and our past actions. What is that? What is that verse? Guna karma vibhagasha. Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasha. Right? These four kinds, these four prison cells are something like your Varnashrama system: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. Right? So, if you are in prison A, right, it means the situation is very conducive for us to take up Krishna consciousness. Because already we have the Sattva Guna, right? We simply have to chant Hare Krishna. But there is also the danger that we get this false pride. Oh, I know the Shastras well. Oh, I know the Vedas well. That's why Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, people who are Brahminical, have these Brahminical qualities. They're conditioned by satisfaction and happiness. Right? Because they're satisfied with whatever they have. But still, what is the danger? They will continue to revolve in this material world as Brahmana. How many lifetimes if you continue to be Brahmana? Are we escaping Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi? No. Right? Even a Shudra who is in class, C cell prison, right? If he comes into a contact with a bona fide spiritual master, he can immediately transcend and get higher than the Sattvic platform. Because he gets out of the prison, right? Even when we are in Sattvic mode, we are still in A cell of the prison, where we still have to break stones only, right? Maybe we have an AC room, and then after grinding stones, we go into the AC room and sleep, right? But we are still grinding stones, right? We are working hard, going into the material world, right? Maybe we have an AC room, AC bungalow, lot of food awaiting us at home. But you are reading somewhere, isn't it? A person who's earning $1 million and a person who is earning $10. Both of them can eat only the same amount. If he's eating more, either he will suffer from constipation or he will suffer from diarrhea, right? So A class present, B class present, C class present. We should know it is all present, right? We have to break stones, and then it depends on our previous karmas, whether we go to an AC room or we go to the road or we go to the forest and sleep. Doesn't matter. Ahara, nidra, bayam, maithunam, even animals are doing very nicely. But if you are an A class present, we get better ahara, better nidra, better maithunam. All that is better, but we are still in the clutches. Like I explained, right? It is a golden rope, silver rope, copper rope. Bound we are. Whether we are bound with a silver rope or a golden rope doesn't matter. We are still bound by the three modes of material nature. But the advantage of being in Sattva Guna is that we can easily take up the process of Krishna consciousness. But Brahmate Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jiva Guru Krishna Prasadi Paya Bhakti Lata Bija. Even a Shudra or a fourth class person, Chandala also, if he comes into contact with the pure devotee of the Lord, immediately he will elevate himself to Shuddha Sattva state. And then he gets out of the prison house. Just like, this material world is a prison house. And getting out of the prison house means going back home, back to Godhead, where there is no Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, where there is no influence of time, where there is no influence of the three modes of material nature. In that state, we can eternally serve, satisfy, and please their lordships under the guidance of a spiritual master. And that consciousness, the Acharyas explained, can be obtained even in this material world, provided we serve a bona fide spiritual master, follow his instructions with faith, with shraddha, with utsahat, with nischayat, and with dharyat. When we do that, then we will be like Padma Patra Ivambasa. Even being situated in this material world, we will be like the lotus flower. Although in the water, in the kichud, they say, right? Even in the kichud, the lotus flower blossoms, right? Like that, we can be transcendental to three modes, even while being situated in this material world, like that. Hare Krishna. Okay, Mataji, does it answer your query?
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you, Mataji. Just that we don't realize that we are without Krishna. And once we realize that we are connected, then I think
the connection is what is built by the spiritual master.
Thank you.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Yes, Priyanka Mataji.
I completely believe that we are part and parcels of Lord Krishna, right? So if we are part and parcels of Lord Krishna, why are we suffering to overcome vices? Krishna has no vices. Why are we having vices, and why are we trying to purify ourselves?
Yeah, very wonderful question, right? Mamevamsho jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatanaha manashastan indriyani prakriti stani karshati, right? Mameva amsho jiva loke. You are perfectly right. We are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, who is always eternally blissful. Why are we suffering? Manashastan indriyani, because we are not situated in our constitutional position. We identify ourselves with this material body. When somebody beats us, we feel pain. When somebody, when we don't get food, we feel pain. We feel suffering. Why? Because we are connecting ourselves to the body that we are associated with. When we understand that I am the servant of the Lord, Aham Brahmasmi, I am the spirit soul. Right? Whatever suffering I'm undergoing right now is because of the choices I've made in the past, right? Because Krishna is supremely independent, right? Krishna is Swarat, right? So Krishna does not want to interfere with our free will, right? Krishna does not want to force us, right? Even in the world here, right? When we try to, like a man proposes to a girl, right? I want to marry you, right? The girl says, no, I don't want to marry you, but the man forcibly marries her. Will that man ever be loved by that girl? No, never, isn't it? Similarly, Krishna will never force us to love him, right? Krishna wants, we are parts and parcels of Krishna. Krishna can tell us, oh, you have to love me, but that love will not be genuine. That love can be genuine and can be heartfelt only when we make a choice that I want to love Krishna. So when we decide, I don't want to love Krishna, I want to enjoy myself independently, Krishna says, okay. No, you go to the material world, you try to enjoy yourself. When you get frustrated, that time you will come back to me, right? There is a beautiful example of, a child, right? When a daughter, say 8 to 10 years old, right? She wants to cook like the mother. She does not want to, she says, why only my mother should cook? Let me cook. And then what does the mother do? The mother buys nice toys, right? The play toys, kitchen toys for her, right? So she cooks the whole day. She plays with mud toys and cooks, and then yellow color sand and puts dal, and nice cooking happens. At 1 o'clock, what does a girl do? After playing from 9 to 1, she runs to the mother. Mama, I'm hungry. The mama says, oh, you already been cooking for 4 hours? You eat that, right? Can the girl be satisfied by eating whatever she's cooked? No, because that is not the truth. There is no rasa. There is no real happiness. There is no real satisfaction in all the play that you're doing in this material world. We are like the children who wants to cook ourselves and enjoy ourselves, right? But we don't realize that at the end of all of it, we are only frustrated. We cannot eat the mud and the sand that you are playing with. We need to go back to our mother, Srimati Radharani, who has prepared nice, wonderful foodstuffs offered to Krishna and waiting for us. Oh, come and take these wonderful delicacies. Right? Until such time we go back to her, we'll be frustrated in this material world, trying to cook and trying to enjoy, but ultimately frustrated that there's no happiness at all in whatever I've been doing. So that realization when we get, then we approach a bona fide spiritual master, then we have the Sambandha Gyan, and then we will do the process of Shravanam Kirtanam, that is Abhideya, and then finally we will get what is called Prayojana Gyan, which is Krishna Prema. Is it okay, Mataji?
So, Mataji, you mean to say just because we have this material body, we have forgotten our actual self? Just because we've got this material body, we have forgotten our actual self, and we are suffering because of the mind, right?
No, because we've forgotten the Lord, and because we wanted to enjoy independently, we have been given this material body. This material body is like a toy that the mother has given the child. You go and enjoy yourself. So we try various things, right? We cook nice things, we try to enjoy, but all the time we are under the control of the 3 modes of material nature. Even if I want to go somewhere, I am bound by so many things. I'm not Swarat. I'm only a part of the doer, right? I can just desire. But then the conditions around me have to be favorable. Only then I can execute, right? If my previous karmas don't allow me to do a particular thing or to achieve a particular thing, I'm frustrated, isn't it? Because I am not supremely eternal. I am not supremely independent. I am dependent on the Lord to fulfill my desires, right? That is why a jiva desires, the Supreme Lord sanctions according to my karma. If according to my previous actions, my karmic account, if I have the karmic credit, then I will get those results. Otherwise, I will not get those results. And then Prakriti arranges for it. Right? So why have I got this material body? Because I've been envious of Krishna. Oh, why Krishna only should enjoy? I want to enjoy independently. And that is why we got this body. And we got this body, Jalaja Navalakshani. It's not that we've got a human body. We've got so many species we've gone through, various species according to our desires. And finally, we've got this human form. So this human form, we want to utilize it in the service of the Lord and understand our real position as a servant of the Lord. We want to go back home, back to God.
Mataji, one more example I've heard, Mataji. The child will get lost in a fair, some exhibition. She will be holding mother's hand, and she will not realize that she'll be lost. The baby will be lost, seeing the beauty of the balloons, the lights, attracted by the festival, that crowded marketplace, the leaves, the lighting, everything. And the baby doesn't realize that it is in such a pathetic situation, that the mother is not nearby. Get lost in a fair, something I heard. I read the story.
Correct. Yeah, so some person can come and give samosas and the child will be happy for some time. Some other person comes and gives a balloon, the child will be happy for some time. But eternally the child can be happy only when somebody takes the child back to its mother. Right? So that is the role that is played by a spiritual master, where we are not allured by all these material things like Maya, which is name, fame, glory, wealth, etc. But the spiritual master takes us back to our eternal father, our eternal mother, Srimati Radharani and Lord Sri Krishna. Okay, Priyanka Mataji, does that help to understand?
Beautifully said, Mataji. It will take time to, get into. We should just,
you can just, introspect and, contemplate on this a little more further. Then, we'll understand the profound truths of what Prabhupada's books are all about. Yeah. All right. So, thank you very much, dear devotees. Let's have darshan of all there. I can see Priyanka Mataji, Shobha Mataji, Sindhu Mataji, Rishabhanu, Mataji, Sneha Prabha Mataji, Vijayalakshmi, Priya Mataji, Leela Nandini Mataji, Karpagavalli Mataji, Sarva Gopeshwari Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Vancha Kalpatarobhyascha, Kripa Sindhubhyevacha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you very much.
And
Hare
what's
Krishna.
the name,
So meet
Mataji?
you all in the evening, 8 o'clock. If you all are free, please join in on the Zoom.
Sure.
Otherwise, we'll
Sure,
meet tomorrow
Mataji.
at 5 o'clock for the Brahma Muhurta.